Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Calls are continuing to grow within the Democratic Party for the US President Joe Biden to step aside in the upcoming presidential election campaign. It comes after a press conference where he repeatedly emphasized that he was the most qualified to beat his Republican rival Donald Trump. However, he repeatedly mixed up names, including those of President Zelensky and President Putin.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway. Mr. President,
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much.
And also referred to his vice president as Donald Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president.
Earlier in the week, actor George Clooney wrote a stinging New York Times opinion piece, with Peter Welch becoming the first Democratic senator to openly call on Mr. Biden to withdraw. It's after a disastrous televised debate at the end of June, which saw Mr. Biden hesitant and stumbling. Many Democrats can't see a way of Joe Biden beating Donald Trump if he stays on as their candidate. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has hit back at what he calls NATO's groundless accusations that Beijing is helping Russia in its war on Ukraine. He also warned the Western alliance against stirring up confrontation. Mr. Wang's comments, made in a call with his Dutch counterpart, came hours after leaders of NATO member states gathered in Washington, D.C. and issued a declaration that mentioned the war. They accused China of being a decisive enabler of Russia through its large-scale support for Russia's defense industrial base in some of their harshest remarks yet about Beijing. Actor Alec Baldwin has been accused of playing make-believe with the gun that went off killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins in 2021. Miss Hutchins died after the gun Mr. Baldwin was rehearsing with went off.
We're going to probably go right now.
It was found that the film's armourer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, accidentally mixed up dummy bullets with live rounds she had brought from home. Mr. Baldwin faces 18 months in prison if he's found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. He denies the charge, saying he never pulled the trigger when the gun went off. Videos released by Taiwan's Coast Guard show what they say were Chinese Coast Guard ships entering prohibited waters around Taiwan's frontline islands of Kinmen. In response to the alleged intrusion of its waters, Taiwan said it dispatched 4 of its own Coast Guard vessels to conduct one-on-one monitoring alongside the 4 Chinese ships. In the footage, personnel from the Taiwan Coast Guard could be heard sending a radio message to China Coast Guard vessel 14508, asking it to leave immediately. Floods triggered by heavy rains have inundated parts of the southwestern Chinese municipality of Chongqing. Aerial video shows residential buildings and trees in Chang village submerged in floodwaters. Hundreds of residents had to be evacuated with chest-deep water levels. The death toll from the heavy rains in Chongqing has risen to at least 5, with 1 person missing. French Air Force service members have taken part in an aerial parade rehearsal above Paris as the country prepares to celebrate its national day known as Bastille Day. Airbus-made Carousel helicopters took off from the Villacoublay airbase near Paris and flew above the capital's iconic Champs-Élysées Avenue for the rehearsal, along with various other aircraft. The rehearsal is aimed at identifying landmarks pilots can use to orient themselves, fine-tuning flight formations and working out timings. And Pamplona revelers have taken part in the 5th running of the bulls at the San Fermin Festival. The event, which sees 6 purpose-bred fighting bulls guided by 6 steers, chase runners through the narrow streets of the Spanish city's Old Quarter and left 7 people injured, with many falls happening during the run. The run became world famous after being immortalized by American writer Ernest Hemingway in his novel The Sun Also Rises in 1926. The run covers a stretch of 800 meters and lasted for 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.